Now, MPs are used to taking a bit of criticism as part of their jobs, but is the level of abuse they receive now becoming intolerable? This week, the Electoral Commission suggested that internet trolls, people who send persistent vitriolic messages, could be banned from voting. And a BBC survey revealed that half of MPs felt the last election campaign was the worst they'd faced for abuse. So, is our politics becoming toxic, or do MPs need to develop thicker skins? Well, joining me now are Yasmin Alibaya-Brown, a writer and broadcaster. Izzy Lyons is a journalist. The MP Nigel Evans and Peter Hitchens from the Mail on Sunday is still with us. Yasmin, we've heard suggestions this week then that those who abuse MPs online should be banned from voting. Is that going a little bit too far?
No, it's not too far. These people who do what they do, and I have to say, I so respect MPs. Even if I disagree with their politics, I could not do what they do, right? It's becoming such a part of our culture. These are not guys who care about the vote. It's no punishment. I mean, the Electoral Commission is such a dozy, ineffective thing. We need to get much tougher, I think.
Well, you're respected by Yasmin, Nigel Evans.
Thank you.
You're an MP. You've noticed that level of abuse. Well, have you? Is it worse?
Well, within the last half hour on Facebook, I've been called a barefaced liar. And then when I explained about why I said that the British people voted to leave the European Union, it was then followed up by another accusation of lies against Boris Johnson. That sort of stuff is offensive. And what did I do? I blocked them. All right, so I've got over that. No, I've got over it.
Barefaced liar, though. Is that a case of sticks and stones?
Well, no, because I think actually to call somebody a liar is deeply offensive. It's not even allowed within the House of Commons chamber to do that. I think Facebook is a power for good as far as politics is concerned, for democracy as well. Absolutely fantastic. But when I listened to the sort of online abuse that people like Diane Abbott had to put up with, when the N-word was used openly, when people are called bitch, openly on Facebook, I think that that's deeply offensive. The photograph of Paula Sheriff, which had been photoshopped into something else, which was deeply offensive.
Yeah.
This.
Remember, we're a Sunday morning show.
Absolutely, that's why I didn't go into greater detail. And if people want to look, they can look at Radio 5 Live, who did an investigation into this. And on the report on Facebook of the abuse, there's actually more abuse coming underneath it. I mean, I absolutely find it totally shocking. I think Facebook are taking it seriously. They've just employed another 3,000 moderators. And I read in the New York Times that they are banning up to 1 million people a day because of the offensiveness of it. But Diane Abbott is right. It's become turbocharged, the sort of offensiveness that's there. It's no longer people who are angry with politicians writing a green ink letter, then posting it. The fact is they can now get on their phone, do this, send, and they almost think that there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, you mentioned that 5 Live survey. Izzy, so more than half the MPs surveyed said it was the worst they had received, and nearly 90% say they had faced abuse. It's time to get tough on these people. They're not doing any good to society, are they?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to stress, I absolutely do not condone the actions of these people. They are vile. They say some very abhorrent things. However, I do see free speech, as an absolute. So you can't say, I believe in free speech, but. My biggest issue with this debate, when we're talking about abuse, I think particularly directed towards MPs, far too many people have been willing to give power to the state and politicians to define what abuse is. In my eyes, that's very dangerous because it's a very slippery slope. And the understanding of the word abuse can snowball. We've seen that with the understanding of the word offence. What it means to be offensive or to take offence has snowballed in recent years. If you just let me finish my point, this is happening in Germany. Angela Merkel, in an attempt to crack down on hate speech, another word that no one really knows what it means or what constitutes it.
Oh, no, we do know.
Sorry, let me finish.
We do know.
She's, slapping Facebook and Twitter with huge fines if they're not pulling down hate speech within 24 hours. But what's happening is people who are posting comments on Facebook or Twitter criticising Angela Merkel for her immigration policy, a legitimate criticism of government policy, are being censored. They're being treated like criminals because it's being put into the definition of hate speech because it's xenophobic, anti-immigration.
We just
People
said
should be
Can I just say,
absolutely free to criticise government policy.
you work
may
for
all
a
agree.
newspaper, right? You're not free to write whatever you want in that newspaper. You accept rules.
Yeah,
you
but
accept.
that's my...
No, hang on. You said you're an absolutist on freedom of speech.
Yeah, I believe people should be able to say
Yeah, but you work for an
want.
industry where you've accepted certain limits. We're on this. We were just told we're on a morning TV show. You can't say certain things. You accept that. So this absolute freedom of speech is is not even it's a kind of myth, isn't
But
it?
her point is that it's a
define what-
slippery slope,
No, it's
and that
not.
someone who doesn't like something that's said about their party can start to change
No,
things.
there is a very...
Censorship.
No, it's not censorship. It is good manners, it is care, it is society.
Absolutely. And
Sean,
but what
Sean,
happens?
it goes beyond that, because
Nigel.
I'm just wondering whether Izzy sees a distinction between saying something which, you know, calling me a barefaced liar, as I said, I can get over that. But in the German elections that are going on today, there is a black candidate there. As you know, he was referred to in the most offensive, racist way. Now, you don't think people have a legitimate right to call somebody?
It's nasty and it's not nice, and I can completely appreciate when you're working in public office and you're doing your job, you know, to say that it's unfortunate is a complete and massive understatement. But one thing I think also with this debate that is often overlooked is we do need to distinguish words from actions. They are very different things. Saying you're going to punch someone is not the same as punching.
Yeah, Diane Abbott, though, I mean, Nigel mentioned death threats. They said that they wanted to hang her out on a tree if they could find a big enough tree. And then abusive terms about her weight and her gender, rape threats. I mean, racist abuse.
No, it's absolutely vile. And
it's absolutely vile, but you allow it to happen and you allow people to do it.
I think it should be, because as soon as you allow the state or politicians to start censoring, start choosing what is right, what is wrong.
And
another,
sorry,
no.
Words really hurt.
They don't hurt as much.
I'm sorry, I have to say this. I have to say this. The attacks I've had in the last 4 weeks have made me scared to go out.
Okay.
I've lost weight. Words hurt.
Yeah.
I wish you'd understand that.
I do, but it's
hang
not
on,
the same as
Peter, who is never normally that quiet, that is been quiet, so let's bring Peter in.
It's a first for television.
Well, no, in a discussion like this, it's rather important, isn't it, to hold to the rules. Yasmin's perfectly right. We are, in this country, unlike the United States, where the First Amendment means that you can say anything, more or less, we are governed by rules about what we can say, particularly by the laws of defamation. I think the principal fault is that people in these below-the-line comments on websites and on Facebook and on Twitter and everywhere else where they do these things are, in many cases, anonymous. And in the days when MPs or people like me received letters written in the best green ink full of threats and drivel, you could just throw them in the bin. They were anonymous, they had no significance, and you realise very quickly they didn't matter. But these people are now licensed by electronic media to have an enormous platform, which they oughtn't to have. I don't think people should be allowed to go on Twitter or Facebook or any of these things unless they divulge their actual identity at some point so that it's traceable. I think if you introduce that as a simple rule, then most of this stuff would stop. People do this because they're hiding behind a stone and they're shouting abuse from behind a stone where nobody can find them. The moment they open themselves to the operation of the laws of defamation, most of this stuff would simply stop.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight.